knowledge of the oceans is more than a matter of curiosity. Our very survival may hinge upon it.
D2 Inc. Oceanography News.
Some set sail to conquer. Some set sail to discover. Some set sail with an army of angry crusaders. We set sail on a ship of fools. We smile into the weather. Our maps are filled with pictures of strange sea creatures. They thrash their tails, their eyes are rolling in the towering water, north for south and east for west.
Welcome to Ocean News 24, and this week's episode starts out with a story from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. How do they study one of the most inaccessible parts of the world? Through their partnership with Ponant, MIT WHOI-MIT Joint Program students Caroline Niddell and Bailey Flugel joined a recent expedition to study glaciers and icebergs along the Antarctic Peninsula. From aboard the Ponant icebreaker Commandant Charcot and on daily treks across the sea ice, the students gathered high-resolution imagery and elevation data that they'll use to model 7 glaciers in 3D. These real-world measurements will help scientists understand how the glaciers calve or break off into the ocean and assess how fast the frozen continent is melting. In early November 2025, Caroline Niddell stepped off the Commandant Charcot, a luxury cruise ship owned and operated by Ponant Explorations Group, onto a large sheet of sea ice on the eastern side of the Antarctic Peninsula. As the rest of the passengers looked for penguins, Niddell and the ship's science officer hiked toward the towering front edge of a nearby glacier. Niddell, a doctoral student in the MIT WHOI-MIT Joint Program, was measuring the glacier's height with a laser altimeter, and she was interrupted by loud, two-toned honking. A group of 4 emperor penguins had spotted the scientists and decided to take a closer look. 3-foot-tall birds dropped to their bellies to slide forward, then stood up to examine the researchers and honk before tobogganing nearer. They continued to do that until they got right up next to us. Then we had to get out of the way because they were going to keep coming closer, Niddell said. Nowhere else in the world can a penguin interrupt you while you're trying to work. The penguins were no surprise. The 2-week-long trip was specifically marketed to guests as a penguin-watching excursion. Thanks to a new partnership between WHOI and Ponant, Niddell was able to come aboard as a sponsored scientist and collect data as well. We're really excited to be working with WHOI scientists, said Megan Clampett, Ponant's head of science. Not only are we gaining more information about the areas that we're navigating through, but we're adding to broader scientific knowledge and also giving this really enriching experience to guests. The 3-year partnership is providing berths aboard Le Commandant Charcot for WHOI scientists to conduct fieldwork in some of the most remote parts of the planet. The 200-passenger ship was designed with spaces specifically dedicated to science, including wet and dry labs. It is a hybrid polar exploration vessel that can penetrate thick, multi-year sea ice up to 2.5 to 3 meters or roughly 8 to 10 feet thick. This allows it to navigate uncharted ice flows and visit areas of Antarctica and other regions that are beyond the reach of most passenger ships. Niddell's glacier measurements were part of a larger project run by WHOI glaciologist Catherine Walker, intended to improve our understanding of how the Antarctic ice sheet may change in the future. Antarctica's ice sheet holds enough water to raise sea levels by 190 feet, but estimates of how much will melt as a result of human-induced climate change vary widely. One of the leading reasons for uncertainty in future sea level estimates is that we don't actually know how strong ice is. We don't know at what threshold it will collapse under its own weight, Walker said. Current computer models typically estimate that the leading edge of a glacier will collapse when it's taller than 295 feet, but nobody has actually checked those measurements in the wild. Walker has been able to collect some data from satellites, but satellite orbits are often badly aligned with specific glacier orientations, and measurements can be plagued by clouds, which occur more frequently along the coast in the Antarctic Peninsula. From the Commandant Charcot, Walker students can get real measurements of the heights of glaciers when they meet the ocean. The scientists are also taking high-resolution photos of the fronts of glaciers, an angle that satellites cannot capture, to look for signs of weakening such as cracks or deformation, and later to create 3D models of the glacier. Every piece of data that we collected was essentially new data. It's amazing how much there is to be discovered in these areas and how little data we have, said Bailey Flugel, a doctoral student in the Joint Program who spent 14 days aboard Le Commandant Charcot in January. On Flugel's trip, the cruise ship went down the western side of the Antarctic Peninsula, crossing into the Antarctic Circle. While each cruise is a general route planned, the actual itinerary may change day to day to provide the best experience for guests. For this project, the dynamic itinerary is not a problem, Walker said, and the fact that the ship rarely stays in one place for more than a day is actually a benefit. You are far more of an opportunity to get a broader geographic distribution of data points than you would on a planned expedition on a research ship, she said. Conducting research from a cruise ship has other benefits as well, aside from the excellent meals and luxury accommodations. The researchers are surrounded by passengers rather than fellow scientists. It's a rare opportunity to engage a wider audience in science as it's happening, and the place where the results will matter most. In addition to heading out every day to measure glaciers, Flugel gave several talks, participated in lab tours led by Ponant's science coordinators, and brought her instruments out into the ice for a workshop. Passengers were able to experience science in real time as Flugel collected data from the ship, as well as having the possibility to discuss her work and its implications more casually over dinner. It was a very distinct experience in which research and exploration and engagement were all reinforcing each other and building this genuine relationship between passengers and researchers, Flugel said. Makes you feel like your science matters more and has more power to it. From the Schmidt Ocean Institute, riding high, during the Argentinian Deep Seas expedition, ROV pilots captured a footage of a tiny animal, like a crustacean, riding a jellyfish like a surfboard. Turns out that quite a few animals prefer a squishier form of transport: crabs, lobster larvae, amphipods, and even small fish. A jellyfish offers protection from predators with their stinging tentacles and access to food while traveling and shooting the curl, as surfers would say. In nature, this is a form of symbiosis called commensalism, where one animal benefits from the relationship while the other neither benefits nor is harmed. With French and Latin origins, it literally means sharing a table. For tiny creatures, energy-efficient travel is essential when seeking new mates and better dining options. This is from the ROV Sebastian in the Schmidt Ocean Institute. Our next story comes out of Kraken Robotics. The Kraken Robotics Catfish towed SAS platform captures high-resolution synthetic aperture sonar data alongside co-registered bathymetry in a single pass. The combined dataset provides detailed seabed imagery with simultaneous depth information, enabling operators to understand both object-level features and local seabed variation within the same survey line. Bathymetric data highlights changes in seabed depth and morphology that are not evident from acoustic imagery alone, supporting more informed interpretation and decision-making during survey planning and analysis. Capturing SAS and bathymetry concurrently reduces the need for repeat passes and simplifies data integration workflows, improving operational efficiency across defense, offshore energy, and subsea inspection operations. You can see more at the link in the description box. Our next story comes out of Woodsole Oceanographic Institution. An estimated 30% of the world's seagrass meadows and mangroves have disappeared in the last century. Globally, we lost the equivalent of 2 soccer fields worth of salt marsh every hour. How can we keep watch over the planet's remaining coastal habitat and efforts to restore it? Find out how tech innovation is giving WHOI scientists the 10,000-foot view they need to save these critical blue carbon resources. In collaboration with his colleagues at Northeastern University, Bell, a WHOI scientist who specializes in coastal remote sensing, is surveying macroalgae known as rockweed or bladder wrack, growing along the rocky coast north of Boston. Stitched together and viewed within specific electromagnetic bands back at the lab, the grayscale images reveal a world beyond the range of the human eye, a near-infrared blur of white that reveals chlorophyll, black shades that signify seaweed cover, and gray dots that are actually barnacles. This bird's-eye view, combined with Northeastern's field sampling and analysis, establishes a baseline of ecosystem health and changes on a scale that would be impossible to do with only feet and eyes on the ground. Since the 1970s, there's been a huge decrease in the amount of mussels that used to be the primary space holders in this area along the Gulf of Maine, and some of that has been replaced by barnacles, but also a lot has been replaced by macroalgae, Bell said. I'm interested in how the system dynamics are changing and how that's affecting the intertidal community and carbon cycling in the coastal ocean. By drilling into different electromagnetic bands, we can look at biomass density and even the physiological condition of various coastal foundation species. Whether it's an algae-carpeted intertidal zone or a tropical mangrove, a waving seagrass meadow, or a fecund salt marsh, plants and seaweed are the engines of coastal biodiversity, a green-tinged litmus of ecosystem health and blue carbon capacity. For many years, these wetlands were thought as of wastelands that were drained, filled, or removed, or they were simply overlooked as various pollutants washed into the ecosystem, drastically diminishing their storm tempering, carbon sequestering, and fish nursery benefits. As a result, an estimated 30% of the world's seagrass meadows and mangroves have disappeared in the last century. We continue to lose the equivalent of 2 soccer fields worth of salt marsh every hour. We know about the rate and scale of loss thanks to Landsat satellites, which have silently captured the decline from 438 miles above the Earth for over 40 years. As a researcher at the University of California, Santa Barbara, Bell started wondering if he could use remote sensing with satellites to track the health of the West Coast's prodigious kelp forests, which form canopies at the ocean surface. In partnership with researchers from NASA, the Nature Conservancy, and several academic institutions, Bell documented a 95% decline in bull kelp along 200 miles, 322 kilometers of the Northern California coast during the winter of 2014-15. With the researchers attribute to a massive marine heat wave. My goal is to answer fundamental questions about how ecosystems work in general, Bell said. In the process, we're creating toolboxes for people to have the opportunity to understand how systems are changing, and that can help with their conservation or restoration initiatives. In 2021, shortly after coming to WHOI, Bell and his partners launched an open-source website called kelpwatch.org, which allows users to visualize changes in the kelp canopy dynamics over time via a simple user interface. 3 years into the project, they have expanded coverage from the U.S. West Coast to southern Alaska, Argentina, and the Falkland Islands. They have plans to bring to Chile, Tasmania, New Zealand, South Africa, and the sub-Antarctic islands on board soon. It's a high-touch process. Ashland Aguilar, research assistant in Bell's lab, cross-references the initial results with high-resolution imagery from Google Earth before working with local researchers to review them. KelpWatch, according to Bell, offers a reliable and efficient way to scale up monitoring of critical coastal ecosystems, but he isn't completely satisfied with the 30-meter resolution provided by satellites. To get a more detailed picture, he started using aerial drones equipped with hyperspectral and multispectral and even regular old color cameras to survey the coast. The resulting data helped him create a digital twin to test the effects of waves, tides, and sunlight on the growth patterns of intertidal species. He has applied this imaging technique from the rocky coast of Massachusetts to South Africa, where his lab joined the first Bioscape field campaign in the Greater Cape Floristic region with NASA and international collaborators in the fall of 2023. The confluence of Atlantic and Indian Ocean currents stirs up a potent cocktail of nutrients to sustain lush kelp forests in the biodiversity hotspot in the Cape of Good Hope. NASA airplanes outfitted with advanced imaging sensors were instrumental in surveying the canopy, adding to the data gathered by Bell's team with drones and field sampling to show the bigger picture of how changing ocean conditions, phytoplankton diversity, and harmful algal blooms impact the kelp forest. Remote sensing with satellites and planes would never replace fieldwork, said Bell, but having a 700-kilometer, 434-mile view of Earth gives you a view of spatial patterns and connections you would never see otherwise. Research in this article was funded by Northeast University and a WHOI seed grant, and it was written by Elise Hughes. Another story out of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. In the ocean, snow is made up of clumps of dead plankton, waste, and other organic debris carrying carbon to the deep sea. In a new collaborative study, WHOI scientists found that bacteria riding along this marine snow can break down the minerals that help it sink. That means less carbon may reach long-term storage in the deep ocean. Understanding how marine snow acts as a carbon sink. Marine snow is a main vehicle by which the ocean stores carbon. At the ocean surface, phytoplankton can absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and convert the gas and other forms of carbon, including calcium carbonate, same stuff that's found in shells and corals. When they die, bits of phytoplankton drift down through the ocean as marine snow, carrying the carbon with them. If the particles make it to the deep ocean, the carbon they carry can be buried and locked away for hundreds of thousands of years. But the new study suggests that bacteria may be working against the ocean's ability to sequester carbon. By eroding the particles calcium carbonate, bacteria can significantly slow the sinking of marine snow. The more they linger, the more likely the particles are to be respired quickly, releasing carbon dioxide into the shallow ocean, and possibly back into the atmosphere. What we've shown is that carbon may not sink as deep or as fast as one may expect, said study co-author Andrew Babin, an associate professor in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences, and a mission director at the Climate Project at MIT. As humanity tries to design our way out of the problem of having so much CO2 in the atmosphere, we have to take into account these natural microbial mechanisms and feedbacks. The study's primary author is Benedict Bohr, a former MIT postdoc who is now an assistant professor of marine and coastal sciences at the Rutgers School of Environmental and Biological Sciences. Co-authors include Adam Supas and Matthew Hayden at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and Ryan Woolsey, a principal research scientist at MIT's Center for Sustainability, Science, and Strategy. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Ocean News. Remember to head over to d-2.com, hit on our news tab, and bookmark our news page so you never miss a Ocean News update. Thank you again for watching, and take care.
Knowledge of the oceans is more than a matter of curiosity. Our very survival may hinge upon it.